situation in Europe continues to unfold, one incredible woman has been part of the mission to rescue some children trapped in the war zone, despite the backlog of visa applications for refugees to come to the UK.
When Jo Cope received a text from a family friend in Ukraine asking for help, she booked herself on the first flight to Poland to meet them at the border.
With just a small rucksack each, her friends, 3 children, eventually made it to safety alongside a document making Jo their legal guardian for up to a year. However, with the government struggling to fulfil the mountain of applications for asylum, she's been forced to bring them into the UK without the necessary paperwork.
Well, just yesterday, Jo arrived back in England and she joined us now. Good morning and thank you for being here. And this is an incredibly worrying time for everybody, and what you've done is extraordinary. So I guess we should start with this connection that you've had with the Ukraine, which has been lifelong, really. Just explain that.
So I was born the same year as the Chernobyl disaster.
Right.
So I've always had some sort of connection to it, just because it literally happened the day I was born. When I was 18, I found out about a hosting programme where they bring children over to escape the radiation for a month at a time. So I hosted the first 2 children then and the 2 the following year. And then I started doing it again in 2016. And since then, we've had 2 children a year come and stay with us until COVID.
So what's your connection with the family that you've just helped?
The family, so I've been in contact as I was watching the borders be the Russian army come in towards the borders. I was in contact with their families a lot, asking them if they're safe, that sort of thing. And they were all quite positive, all fine. And then I was at work on the night shift on the Tuesday when the first shelling began. I was continuing in contact with them throughout the night, throughout the days. And one of the dads asked me, I'd been to Ukraine before and spent time with the family, and they'd driven us around, showing us Ukraine, having us in their house. We'd been to their school, all that sort of thing.
And what was it that he asked you that night?
So he just sent me a message saying, if this gets really bad, would you be able to take the children?
My gosh, so they work in security in critical positions, so there's no way that they can leave the Ukraine. So these are 2 parents that are just concerned for the safety of their children. So he mentioned this, and then it was Sasha, who's the 14-year-old, and she was one of the children that had come to stay with you in 2018, and she messaged you to say that it wasn't safe anymore.
Yeah, so by the Friday morning, I'd been talking to her all night, and she said she was like, we're safe at home, and then the next message was like, it's not safe, we're moving. At which point I straight away messaged her dad and was like, what's happening? And they were moving to a different area. So at that point I booked a flight.
Well, you booked a flight, and this is... so here we have 2 groups of people. There's you and that little family trying to get together to meet up. So you fly into Poland. You then take an Uber to the border. How long was the journey there?
It was about 250 kilometres.
Right.
We was attempting to get to one border crossing, but it was so clogged up. There was like 2,500 cars in front of them.
Wow.
So they diverted to a new border, and my Uber driver, I was like, can we go somewhere else? So he took me to a different place.
So at the same time, they, as a family, obviously the men have to stay behind and can't get through the checkpoints. And so there comes a point when Dad has to peel off and go back, and then Mum can take them to a certain point, and then she has to let them go as well, and then they're on their own. So there's a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old.
And a 15-year-old.
And a 15-year-old who's the cousin. And so they then have to make their way through. How the hell did they find you?
So at that point, I'd been at the border for 30 hours. They'd been there longer because they'd probably been there 50 maybe hours, because since the time that I'd left their house, I left my house, travelled all the way to Poland, spent a night in a hotel. That whole time they'd been at the border.
And it's freezing?
It was cold, it was snowing. So by that point, they'd said goodbye to their parents, and they were in... It was sort of like Dover to Calais, where there's them tunnels. I could see the points where they probably were, but they couldn't quite work out how to get to me.
And they were on their own for 6 hours trying to get there.
So they were stuck in the middle bit. So
terrified and on their own, I imagine. So eventually, when they did catch up with you and they found you, that must have been quite an emotional reunion.
Yeah, because their battery they were on 11% and I was running low as well. So the police slipped on, they were letting me sit in their car to recharge my phone. And there was a random man that spoke Ukrainian that had been translating between me and their parents and me and them. At one point I was like, just wait there, I will get to you. And no one would let me through because I had a British passport.
So this is, I mean, this is the first challenge. And you think, right, you've got them, great, you've got them, they're safe. Brilliant, let's just get them home. But actually, that's when the second challenge begins, isn't it? So, because from that moment, you contacted the embassy in Warsaw, you contacted the Home Office, and what did they tell you?
So I couldn't get through. I'd been contacting them from the Tuesday prior to, like, the day the war started was when I started contacting them. And it was just ringing and ringing and ringing. And then finally got through and they said I can't make an appointment at an embassy until I'd applied for a visa, but currently there's no visas that fit our category because we are in a strange category. I've been signed legal guardianship for a year, but because they're not blood relative, there was no, we don't fit under the family one, we don't fit under...
I can sort of understand, because there is this massive wave.
Yeah.
You can understand that there are going to be some serious sort of slip-ups because of the numbers. Yeah. However, what I don't think any of us understand is how come nobody ever foresaw this coming. The minute they're on the border or coming in, that it doesn't appear that everyone else seems to have been organised apart from us. Let me read you this. Government spokesman said, last week we announced a new sponsorship route which will allow Ukrainians with no family ties to the UK to be sponsored to come to the UK. This is alongside our Ukraine Family Scheme, which has already seen thousands of people apply, as well as changes to visas so that people can stay safely in the UK. The routes we have put in place follow extensive engagement with Ukrainian partners, rapidly moving, complex picture, and as the situation develops, we will continue to keep our support under constant review. Does any of that ring true to you?
So I contacted my local MP. To be fair, she'd been quite good. And she's been raising the specific case to the Home Office. But I went to the British Embassy in Dublin and I couldn't get in there.
You had to go through Lisbon.
Yeah.
In Portugal.
And Lisbon wouldn't let us board the plane, so we missed the plane because of the paperwork and they weren't sure.
Also, that's a country that is incredibly hot on unaccompanied children or children not with their parents because, of course, of the tragic Madeleine McCann situation. So that's a tough country anyway, but you managed that eventually.
Yeah, they phoned Irish Border Control and if they were happy to let us through, they would let us through. The Border Control in Dublin were more than happy to let us through. They were really welcoming when we got there. They said that we could settle there for 3 years.
But obviously you've got your family in Chelmsford, so that's not an option. So then you went through Northern Ireland and then you got a ferry to Scotland.
At that point, it was looking like I could be stuck in Dublin for some time and I've got 3 children at home.
It's not an option?
No, I've got a job.
So to Scotland it was?
And then we drove back to Essex.
And then you drove back and you got back at 4 a.m. yesterday. So this is an extraordinary journey. The children are at home. Yeah. They're safe.
They're finally in a house that they know.
But this isn't the end of it, is it? Because, obviously, the paperwork isn't correct.
I'm just living in terror that they're going to get taken from me or anything like that.
I think everybody watching now would say, don't you dare. Yeah. Not after what they've been through, not after... You've seen the pictures of their village.
Their village,
And this is, as you say, there was a playground, there were houses around it, and it's now destroyed. Completely. They have nothing to go back to.
No.
How are they? How are they doing?
As to be expected, they're bubbly kids. They're good kids.
Well, you said something. You said that you are waiting them to feel like they can be children.
Yeah, I just want them. I wanted them in my house where they know my kids and my pets and me, and then they can deal with their emotions. However, that's going to happen. On the move continually is just not healthy for them. Like, I know what's best for them emotionally, and waiting is not good. I promised their parents that I'd keep them safe. And
are they relieved they're with you?
Yeah, so their mum posted on my Facebook this morning. She was like, "You've saved my children from watching this war zone." They keep sending me really sweet messages. I'm just like, all I did was come and collect your kids. I just collected your kids.
It was huge.
We're going to talk to someone in a moment who hasn't been, it's called David Carter, who hasn't been as successful as you yet in getting them in. You had to take a very circuitous route. You had to break the rules.
Yeah.
To get them in, and now you're terrified because of your unbelievably good deed. You're now terrified that they could be taken away from you. And I think there would be a massive outrage if that even was the case, because we constantly see what appears to be a very bureaucratic and heartless situation here. The British people have raised, over £100 million, yet there are people banging on the doors who desperately need to get in, and whatever reason it is, they're not allowed in, whether it's a bureaucratic process or maybe it's mindful, maybe it's heartless, and I can't believe that would be the case. What do you think of the process when you're watching people now trying to get in? I
feel like it's the same with Syria and Afghanistan. There's people are desperate. I stood at the border watching women and children with their puppies and kittens coming through, hugging their babies. And to see the welcoming we got in Poland, we've not had that here. Literally, the Polish people kept me alive that night. Two men let me sit in their car for the night and kept the engine on to keep the heating on, because I just had barely any, like basically what I'm wearing now. They were offering out hot food and hot drinks. They were offering accommodation. They were offering the police offered to drive us into Warsaw and put us in a hotel.
That's incredible, isn't it?
It was exactly the same in Dublin.
Arms.
Yeah.
Open arms.
I was at one point thinking I'm going to have to bring my children to Dublin and remove their whole lives to...
And bearing in mind that when you were actually at the border and you phoned the embassy, they said, well, you might need to go to Moldova.
Yeah.
Or you could go to Romania. So you're out there. I mean, you've taken an Uber to get to them in the first place, and now you could be sent to another country.
Yeah, we were in the airport at that point, and it was the first time I'd managed to actually get through and speak to someone. And they said, you've either got to go into the centre of Poland or Romania, Moldova, maybe Slovakia, Hungary. At that point, they were exhausted. They'd been travelling for days and days. I weren't about to pull them out of the airport and make them then go to an embassy where I knew there wasn't a visa option for us. But what I don't understand is that their parents have signed me over guardianship.
Listen to the parents.
Why am I not considered family?
Give them that.
Yeah.
Give them that control.
I've promised their parents that I would look after them, and I'm not letting them go.
Well, as a show, as a country, I mean, everybody watching now will I am pretty sure, think that you are a remarkable person. You've saved those children.
Well done.
You've upheld your promise to the parents, and I wish you well. And as we say, as you continue this process, I hope you've done the hard part now, and that somebody somewhere shows heart that they haven't shown you already.
Yeah, I think so. Please send our love to your children and all of your children. All right, thank you.
Thank you.